repeat that every year. And say thanks to all of you that are here to celebrate with us the end of this season with MilanoR. So my presentation is just a short recap about what we did during the first part of the year and what we are going to do. Some of you maybe don't even know MilanoR, maybe you are here because you know the data science, Milano data science community, so it can be a short introduction to you. So MilanoR is the local R user group of the city of Milano. We have a blog, we have a Facebook page, and we organize meetings, which are like kind of talks, and the R labs, which are like short hackathon, more or less. And this is what we did during the year. The first thing that we did in 2017, we went to the R conference, the RStudio conference in Florida, and it's our friends from RStudio, and there we introduced some way the MilanoR community to the RStudio. So this was the first thing, so they now are here. And during the RStudio conference, we had the idea of the R labs. So during March, we launched this new project. Maybe some of you joined it, you participated. The R labs are kind of very short hackathons. Sometimes they just last 2 hours or 3 hours. Sometimes they last for 1 day. What we do is to try to involve institutions, getting some real data science problems. And from these data science problems are faced by the R user community. So we all together try to solve these problems working in teams. We did the first edition in March. Then in April, we had one of our meeting, the MilanoR meeting. We had some special guests, Romain Francois and Stephens and Joseph Rickert. And the meetings are talks. So yeah, we have this at Microsoft House that hosted us. On April, some days ago, we had the second lab where we tested the working in team process. We had the first real data science problem, which was mapping earthquakes. And we realized a first shiny app to map these earthquakes. And on the 27th of May, we did like a full day of our lab involving the Milano municipality. They gave us their budget data, and we realized a shiny app to try to analyze this data. I want to show you the app that we realized. Some of you were at the data lab. Can you raise your hand? Okay. Wow. So now you can see the result. Okay. So what I think is really interesting about this app is that since we worked in team, we have several points of view on the data, on the budget data. So like this is the first visualization that you can get, which is trying to visualize the data for mission. So you can check how the experiments were organized on different layers and different missions. And if you change the mission, then you get the update of the app, of course. Then we have some time series according with the institutional program. So you can compare how the money were used along the years. And then we have research for text. So you can choose a word that you are interested in to search for, like kindergarten. And then you get the word cloud, and then you get all the entries that contain that word. And you have the data organized according with the amount of money that were spent, so the top entries. And then we have a kind of visualization that takes into account the fact that data are organized like a tree, so you can visualize from one level to the other. So this is the app that we realized, and we actually realized it in 8 hours working all together, and with some just small integration the day after. So I received this email from the budget director of the Milano municipality that say, oh, what you did in 8 hours, like other cities are doing in 1 year or more. And so, yes. And he presented our app at a meeting of the budget directors of other European cities. So yeah, it was very enthusiastic at this. So this is what we did, and I'm not familiar with Max, so I don't remember. Then this is the event that we have today. But now what we are going to do for the second part of the year, we are thinking to have another lab just to review our app, because we hope to present it to the citizens, so to make it available inside the Milano municipality website, or at least accessible. So we need to validate it and to be sure that everything that is inside is working well. This should be on September 12th, maybe. And we will have the participation from distance of Trentuar. There are 2 guys from Trentuar. Where are you? Yeah. Okay, good. We will have even like a remote participation of another user group. And then, luckily, on September, we will present this application together during the Giornata UNESCO della Trasparenza, together with the assessor and the budget director of the Milano municipality. During the October, likely, we will support the launch of MilanoR, another user group. Yeah, there should be Paolo. Okay, Paolo, yes. Okay. Where he lives there, and he is working with us to try to start this new local user group. And by the way, in August and the last day of August and the first 3 days of September, there will be an hackathon in Chiasso, which is called Hack the City. If you are interested, it's really, we were supposed to be involved in the organization, but this year was too much for us, so we didn't do this. We are not going to do this, but maybe next year. But you can get a lot of information from Paolo if you are interested on participation. And there are even like money prizes, so maybe it's interesting. And then October, we will have a new MilanoR meeting. The focus of this will be data visualization. So it's open. You will see soon it on the website, called for speakers. If you realize some special visualization or some package that does something particular, and you want to submit your proposal, then it's open. Then we have other 2 labs. One will be a full day. It's like 2H2O. We will take a Kaggle problem and do a machine learning exercise altogether. So that would be like a full day of workshop. And then another short version of the R lab. We will work together with Riccardo, which is the biostatistician there, okay, in building and shining up likely about personalized medical risk. So we'll try to apply the medical guidelines for predicting personalized risk. Along the second part of the year, we start some training, some R courses, and for the MilanoR users, we get a 25% of offer discount. So yeah, we will see. And yeah, talking about the sponsors, we are sponsored by Quantile, which is an art training and consultancy company. But we had some support during this year from RStudio, from Microsoft, from Mitamai, working that hosted us, from Comune di Milano. But we hope to get more sponsors. So yeah, if you want to support us, you are welcome. And then now, yes, this is what we will have today. The welcome presentation. After me, we took Gian Mario from the data science community, so you will know what they do. And then Nathan Stephens and Joseph Rickert will give their presentation. And after we will have some refreshment and networking time. Well, so have a good time.
Hello everyone, I'm Gian Mario. I'm one of the organizers of the Data Science Milan community. So first of all, I'd like to thank MilanoR and RStudio for this event happening. We are a kind of guest today, so we help with the promotion of the event, but essentially we are a guest at the end. I would like to briefly introduce the community. Firstly, how many of you have attended some event from Data Science Milan already? Okay, I say half and half. Okay, so what is Data Science Milan? It's essentially a community now it's more than 600 people, and the goal is we want to establish as the major data science community in Italy. We started from Milan. We have ambitious plans, and the goal is, we want to incentivize collaborations and connecting people so that we can make data science happen. So essentially, we are this is our mission, to be the focus point around all the professionals in Milan, companies, startups, associations, or other communities like MilanoR, labs, universities. So whatever is going around data science, then we can help you. This is some of our initiatives. Most of it we do tech talks like tonight. We did some startup pitches to help startups working in sort of data, big data analytics and data science fields to meet with possible investors. We offer channels for learning and sharings and promotions that we negotiate for our members. And of course, the major thing is that we make people connecting, and so the networking happening. That's the most important part of this community. And soon we're going to start doing hackathons and panel discussions. And if you have any sort of suggestion, then please speak with one of the member staff. So we would like to thank our sponsor, which is Open Search Network. It's a recruiting company. It's based in London, but they offer recruiting services for Italy. And they often are in Milan. They are specialized in data science. So whether if you are interested in looking for a new job, your company wants to hire, then I strongly recommend you to get in touch with them. And there are many packages for sponsorships. I won't spend too much time here, but you'll find everything on our website. If you are interested, I strongly recommend to join the Digest. We won't spam you more than once a month. And you will be up to date with not just with events of the community of data science, but also other communities, other events going on in Italy or in Europe mainly. Get up to date with every news that we have to share. And you can even submit some link if you want to post something to the newsletter, so then everyone can read it. This is our major channel, our communication mean. So we tend to limit use of email and use Slack. So please join. And if you're interested, you'd like to give a talk, you want to submit any proposal for you or your company, then please visit this, the application form, or just speak with one of us. And if you're not from our community, then please have a look. And if you're interested, then please join us. And this is just one of the promotions, actually self-promotion. But yeah, so I managed to get some discounts for the member of communities. It's a book that recently was published about deep learning in Python. It's not R, so but it was in the slides. And the second one is DataCamp. So we have an agreement, we got some discount from them. So if you want to attend some online courses. Okay, so you'll find us on any major most famous social channel. So tweet us, like us, watch to us, and whatever. I don't know what word to use. Link us. That's it. So thank you very much, and please enjoy the night.
So I'm Nathan Stephens. This is my first time in Milan, and we've had a great time here. We have looked forward to this for months, and it's been fantastic to be here. We appreciate the hospitality and the tours and all the wonderful food that we've had, the great sites. We have not been disappointed in the least, and we're thrilled to be here. And we're looking forward to chatting with you at the conclusion of the talk. I have about 45 minutes, I think, of material, so get comfortable. I hope it's worth your time. I want to talk about a few things. I'm going to deviate slightly here, and I want to talk about this website called RViews. Is this okay, Joe? If I plug RViews, you can plug it again. So Joe here runs this blog, all right? And a lot of people don't know about it because it's new. It's a community blog, and it has a lot of great information out there. So number one, it's good information for you guys. Number two, you guys can post to this blog, talk to Joe. So if you have a great idea, talk to Joe about getting content on the blog. My background is in analytics, and throughout my career, I've had the chance to introduce R into every organization I've gone to. And as I've done that, the question always comes up, like, how do you do R, right? So there's this issue of making R a legitimate part of your organization. And there's this issue of administering R once that legitimacy has been established. So this post was written recently. That's what I'm highlighting here about analytic administration. But the reason I'm bringing it up here is because if there's anyone out in the audience that is doing administration for R and feels a little uneasy about it, please talk to me. I would love to talk to you about your experiences introducing R to your organization and installing it, maintaining it, and scaling it. These are jobs that are not typically part of the analyst's experience and training, and that means that people who are doing administration R oftentimes feel like they are outside the norms. They feel like they're in a no man's land. And I just want to say, if anyone in this audience is in that situation, that's completely normal. And again, I would love to talk to you about it, because the truth is there's a lot of opportunity for people who want to do analytic administration. The analytics is growing very rapidly right now. And any organization that wants to hire data scientists, wants to answer important questions and work with big data is going to need the tools that you get with R, basically. So again, this is a passion point of mine. I hope to do some more work in RStudio around this audience in particular. So look for that. If you're coming to the RStudio Conf in January, we'll be having some training and some more information about analytic administration. But that is not my talk today. Although I would love it to be my talk, we are talking about something else. Great. So instead today we're talking about publishing and self-service analytics. That's a long title, and it looks kind of weird too. It's like R publishing, like I'm not getting it, right? So I'm going to explain like where we're coming from here. You already know some of our products at RStudio. One is the IDE, right? That's the famous product that we have. You probably know about some of our packages. I want to highlight 3 groups of packages. Tidyverse, R Markdown, and Shiny. And then we have this new product called RStudio Connect. And we're going to be talking about RStudio Connect today. But before we jump into RStudio Connect, I just want to check a few boxes here. So I want to make sure everybody's on the same page and has seen these tools and is familiar with how they're used. The first one is the Tidyverse, and we're going to demonstrate the Tidyverse here in a minute. So if you haven't used it, or even if you haven't heard about it, we'll walk you through all the packages. So the Tidyverse is a collection of R packages that share common philosophies and are designed to work together. This is put together by Hadley Wickham's team at RStudio, and primarily through his team, and with help from the community as well. And you can install this by simply typing install packages Tidyverse, and it will install all of these packages. The Tidyverse has its own website, and you can go to that website and learn more there. The second thing we're going to talk about is notebooks, and I really like notebooks, so I'm going to postpone this a little bit, but notebooks allows you to put your narrative and your code and your output all in the same place, and then share that work in HTML. Notebooks, by the way, are new. They came out about a year ago. Shiny apps. So if you've never seen Shiny, I'm also going to do some Shiny apps. It's basically web application development for R users. R Markdown. This is how you generate reports in R, and these reports can be translated to HTML, PDF, Microsoft Word, IO slides, and more formats. And then dashboards. We'll be doing some dashboarding today as well. So these dashboards are really easy to do. You can do them in Shiny and or R Markdown. Okay, great. So we checked the boxes. Let's get on to the meat of the presentation. So data science. What is data science? We could have long discussions about what is data science. For purposes of this discussion, data science is the development process where you're getting learning about your data and then sharing those insights with other people. And that starts with data sources and a variety of data sources, and importing those data sources into your environment, and then cleaning those data sets into an understandable framework, which we call tidying your data. Then you transform, visualize, and model your data, which helps you understand it, and then you communicate the results out to other people. That includes publishing your work. So it's this box, this communication box, that we want to talk about today. This chart can be found in Hadley Wickham's book, R for Data Science, which is available online for free, or you can purchase it through the box we want to talk about today. So why is communicating results important? Well, communicating results really involves two groups, these content creators and these content consumers, what we call content creators. And who are these people creating content? Well, that's everybody in this room. So everybody here, I'm sure, has done at least some sort of created some sort of report or analysis or image or presentation. These are data scientists, domain experts, and app developers who are trying to understand, measure, predict, and optimize their work. And who are they sharing it with? They are sharing it with content consumers. And who are these content consumers? Well, these are your managers, your peers, maybe other students, colleagues. And these are the decision makers. These are the people that are trying to make decisions based on the work that you've done. And they want to take some sort of action and see results. So how does this workflow work? You've got people that are reading your work and you're creating your work. You're building all these artifacts. You hand it off and they look at it and say, that's great. And invariably, something happens. What happens is these content consumers here ask a question. They say, what if we look at more data? What if we look at a wider time frame? What if we look at a different segment or extrapolate it out or try a different method? So the content creator goes back to the drawing board, which is you, right? You go back to the drawing board and you update your artifact, and your artifact goes back to the content consumer. And this cycle goes around and around and around to the point where you're probably budgeting a fair amount of your time into this cycle, whether you're doing it consciously or not. Typically, you'll build something with the idea that it's going to take me a long time to communicate this out. So, is there a better way? Yes, I believe there is a better way. So, when I look at this process, I think, wouldn't it be great, instead of having this circle that's never ending, if we could push some of this control to the content consumers, so the content consumers could work directly with the artifacts to get the information that they're looking for. We call this self-service analytics, right? The content consumers are going to be consuming the content as they see fit, and they can explore, interact, and personalize that content. That would be great if you could do that. It would also be great if you could schedule all this content and distribute it to whoever you wanted to really easily. So instead of having emails after emails of like this attachment, version 1, version 2, and version 3, if you could just send out the reports to people automatically when those things have been updated on a schedule that you dictate. And would it be great if you could run all of this in R, right? So we've all made it to the R user group, so I assume we all love R. That's the tool of choice here. Let's make something that's R-centric. So what we're talking about doing here is saying the content creator has passed over control of a lot of this material to the content consumer to interact with R, to schedule, distribute, change the nature of the content in the way that they see fit. And these people might not even know anything about R, but they're taking advantage of the full power of R because you have given them the control to do that. So the solution for this is a collection of tools that we put into this new product called RStudio Connect. Now this is a paid product. This is a professional product for teams, but you can do a lot of this stuff through open source as well. And in my presentation, I'm going to show you how you would do this in open source versus how you do it in RStudio Connect. But RStudio Connect joins two audiences, the content creators and the content consumers. And it does two important things. Number one, it allows you to publish all of your work into one location. All the work that your team creates in R, you can put into RStudio Connect. And two, it allows these content consumers to do self-service analytics to get that information out of it according to their own terms and the terms that you set for them. And the outcome of this is that your data scientists the data scientists become much more influential in your organizations, and two, that people are consuming that information to make decisions. All right, so that's basically an overview of RStudio Connect. What I want to do now is I'm going to jump into the demonstrations and show how to publish documents, images, and applications. And I'm going to use a server that we set up specifically for this presentation called roadshow.rstudio.com. You're very welcome to follow along. You can use your laptops, join in here if you'd like. You can use, that will allow you to publish content if you want to. You can also do, you use your phone, and using your phone you can observe the content. You won't be able to publish, but you can actually see some of this stuff. So feel free to do that, and I'm going to jump into the tool now. All right. Well, it's late, and we've tried to keep this kind of light. So what we've done is we've grabbed data off the internet from Star Wars API. No better way of saying it than that. And I feel a little validated because if you've been keeping track of the news, Hadley just updated dplyr recently. And one of the updates in the most recent version of dplyr 0.7, was to include data from Star Wars in dplyr. Okay, that's not these data. These data come from Star Wars API, and basically you can ping the Star Wars API, and it will give you data written by people who have more time on their hands than I do. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do here is we're going to go ahead and we're going to create a plot. Okay, and this is going to be quick, and then I'm going to dial it back and dig into what we're doing here. The first thing I want to do is I want to load the Tidyverse. So I'm going to load that. Let's try this again, okay? We'll come back here, clear this out, and load it up. All right, and you see the Tidyverse loaded all these packages like ggplot2, tibble, tidyr, readr, and per, and dplyr. Then I'm going to load R Wars, which is the API, the package that allows me to pull data. I'm going to load a few other packages which would be useful for me. I'm going to pull in trilogies, which would be useful here. I'm going to set a new label called trilogies, and then I'm going to pull in the data for the films. And this is what the film data looks like. It's actually a list of lists because it came through in JSON, and lists of lists are very useful for APIs. Not so good for analyzing data with models and plots. So what we're going to do is we're going to reorganize this data into a tabular format. And we're going to use the Tidyverse to do that. So the first thing we're going to do is use a Tibble, which is a jazzed up version of the data frame. Then we're going to go ahead and use these mapping tools, which maps the lists into a data frame. We're going to go ahead and pipe those commands into dplyr to create some new variables called ratio and trilogy. Okay, so let's take a look. Just create a new dataset called results. And this is what results looks like. This is what, in this tabular format, every row is an observation and every column is a variable. So we call this a tidy data set because it's in a format that we can use to do modeling and visualization. So once we have that tidy data set, we'll go ahead and do a plot. Zoom in here. This is called the rise of hyperdrive, percentage of ships with hyperdrive capability. You can see that it increases over time, it increases with trilogy, and we get to the point where Force Awakens has 100% of the ships with hyperdrive. Okay? So with that knowledge, what do we do with this graphic? Well, normally what we do with this image would be to save it to a file share somewhere, to a project directory, or we're going to copy that and put that into a PowerPoint. And that creates multiple iterations and images that get lost or people don't have permission to access. So I would argue that's probably not the greatest way of handling your content. Maybe a better way is to go ahead and publish this content to RStudio Connect. So here what I do is I put in a name for my graphic, and I hit publish, and this will send it off to RStudio Connect. Now I'm not going to do that right now, I've already done that for you. This does work, believe me. We're going to publish some things later on. Let me come in here and show you the hyperdrive plot. So we're in RStudio Connect here. I can open this up in its own website, and you notice that up here at the top, we have a URL that we can share with other people. And the great thing about that is if you do updates to this graphic, then it will stay in the same URL. So people with that URL will always have the most recent version of the graphic. All right, so let's bring it back here a second and let's talk about the Tidyverse. I think the Tidyverse is important enough to spend a few minutes on. It's orthogonal to the RStudio Connect, but let's walk through it. Let's back up. Okay. Okay, so instead of doing an R script like this, I'm going to use an R Markdown document. Who's used R Markdown? Let's see, show of hands. Great. Okay. Who has used R notebooks? Okay, good. So I like R notebooks a lot, and the reason I like R notebooks is because it blends code along with narrative and output. So it forces you to organize your code in these things called code chunks, and every code chunk has narrative and output associated with it. And when you're done with all your code chunks, you can share that with other people. Now it's funny, when I'm in the States, I actually do bring this topic of Leonardo da Vinci, how he has all these notebooks. In fact, yesterday we went and saw the Codex Atlanticus in the library downtown. And they're beautiful, right? They have these wonderful little sketches and then notes around them. So when I talk to people in the United States about Leonardo, I try to make the point that if it's good enough for Leonardo, it might be worth trying out ourselves, right? And these things are new to the R community, and it takes a little while to get used to, but I can tell you that they have done wonders in the way I organize my code and the efficiency in which I can get out information. So this is a notebook, and it has a YAML header, and then notice I have like some descriptions here about like what it is I'm doing, and then we have these code chunks. And the first code chunk is just setup. I'm just going to run basic, packages, labels, get the data. And then I have a new section here about dplyr, and I feel compelled to just explain dplyr. So if you guys use dplyr all the time, that's great. If you've never seen dplyr, just let me go through it really briefly. What you're going to do with dplyr is instead of using brackets and strings and other notations, you're going to end up with these verbs. And these verbs look like things like filter, select, and mutate. And these verbs allow you to operate with your data in very powerful, efficient ways because dplyr is relatively fast, which is good. And it also makes your code human readable. So you can write this and come back to it in 6 months and you'll actually understand your code. That's an achievement, by the way. Then this is a range and a group by, okay? So I'm just gonna go ahead and run these things. And here we can see that we have output in line with the code chunk, which is really cool. I can like go through and see, okay, here's a table, here's another table, and here's all the output from the work I did. All right, so that's package one. Package two is Tibble. So Tibbles are jazzed up versions of the data frame. And if you've worked with data frames, you know that R is a little quirky, and Tibble is an attempt to standardize some of those quirks. So here I've got two data frames. One's a Tibble and one's a traditional data frame. I'll go ahead and run both of these. And you can see that the difference here is that for the data frame, my character data got mapped into a factor. Has anyone ever been bit by this? Am I the only one? So my background is big data, and you load in like 50 gigabytes of data, and then you one of them is a factor, and R just freaks out on you because it's trying to index those factors while it's reading the data. It's a nightmare. So the Tibble doesn't have that issue. If I come over to Tibble, you'll see that this is actually a character. So that's just one of the small niceties that Tibble brings to the table. It gives you the ability to do map functions, which are really useful for iterative tasks, things that you would normally do with like a for loop. So here is a function where I'm looping through the film's data, and I'm doing an lapply. And I trust if you've been using R for even a little while, you've probably seen lapply. The lapply applies the same function to every element in the list. Well, with per, you use the map function, which does the same thing, or the map character, which reduces everything to a character. So let me just run these and you can see the output. So the lapply does this, the map function does the same thing, and then the map character just creates a character vector. So being able to iterate through lists like this and apply functions is a core skill for an R analyst to have. And I would argue that per is more powerful, more consistent tool than lapply. All right, so that's a plug for per. Okay, so we did 3 packages in the Tidyverse, and Hadley's in love with cats, I guess. I think that's where these cat things come from. If you were wondering why it was called per, I think the statement was, it makes your analytics purr like a kitten. Okay? So, there it is. I think that's something that should be reserved for high-performance sports cars, but we have it in R now. Okay, so the other thing I have to say about that and names, and working with Hadley, I can tell you this is definitely true, is like naming things with an R is totally cursed. I mean, like it's really hard to get good names in R, and you'll see that over and over in the R world. The best thing we have is putting the R into things, like the extra R in per. Makes it very easy to search on Google. So there are some utilities there, but I digress. Okay, so here's this original statement that we had in the ggplot, and I'm just going to run it here, and you can see how the data show up. And then I'm going to go ahead and run the plot here. Okay. So same plot, just inside of a notebook. I can even put some insights here at the end saying these data have increased emphasis on hyperdrive, blah, blah, blah. I can say why this is important. I can even go farther and run some like linear models here. I can say, okay, that's the correlation, and that's the model, and here's some predictions. Now, the nice thing about notebooks is once I'm done with all of this, I can just hit the preview button. and I have a report. And this report will show me all of my code and all of my output and all of my comments in that beautiful narrative that I worked hard on in one document that I can share with anyone via email or web server or file share. If I come back to this document, finally got to an image. If I come back to this document in 6 months, I will be able to read this document, reproduce the code, and understand why this was important to me. It will also force me to organize my thoughts. When I do work like this, I do better analytics than when I do R scripting, because I actually have to verbalize my motivation and what I'm learning as I work along here. That's the reference to the things that Leonardo did, right? Like Leonardo makes comments about his work as he goes along, which improves your thinking ability, your ability to do analytics. So this document is completely done and it's shareable, and you're ready to move on. You don't have a file structure with project things that are floating around. You have one document with everything in it. That's why I like R notebooks. Okay, let's come back and show another R notebook here about the Star Wars data. I'm going to go ahead and knit this document. This is a little small, but this is called Luke Skywalker Quick Facts. So we're done with notebooks and Tidyverse. Now we're going to talk about publishing again with Connect. So this is Luke Skywalker Quick Facts. You can see that Luke Skywalker has blonde hair, blue eyes. He's 77 kilos. He comes from Tatooine, and he's in all of these films, right? Most of the films he's in. Okay, so this document is great. I've got something interesting to say. I want to say it now. How do I share this? Well, I'll go ahead and publish. I'll choose this, and I'll choose our Markdown. Let's see. I jumped the gun. Let me come back to which document? There we go. Okay, that's better. So I come to publish and I hit RStudio Connect. Publish just this document, and here I have a choice. I can choose either publish the document with the source code or publish just the finished document. So I'm just going to publish the HTML here first, and then we're going to come back to the source code. So I do this, I give it a name, and I publish it out, and it looks something like this. Great. I've got that same document, different image here, and I can decide who to share this with, right? I can say, you know, anybody can see this. Specific groups, collaborators, me. I can add in, you know, my colleague, you know, Sean or Edgar, and then they can see this. So I have some control on who actually gets to see this report, and that's great. But it's just an HTML document. What's much more interesting is if you go back here and you say, publish the document with the source code. Now this time you see that we have extra options here for RMD unparameterized and the Flickr and the people data. So this is going to bundle up all of these things. And that means that our Markdown is basically a recipe. It's a recipe for building this document. And we're going to go ahead and ship that recipe off to RStudio Connect. So if we do that, we'll have the same document. But this time we have this little refresh button here. We didn't have that before because before it was just a static document. So now that we have the recipe in there, I can refresh the data, and it will go back to Flickr and it will pull in a new image, and it will refresh this report. Let's refresh it again. There's some element of randomness in the Flickr API. There we go. So we got a new image, which means that so say you're a user that comes to get this report and you want the most up-to-date report, you can click that refresh button and it will give you the most up-to-date report. You can also email this report out to yourself if you like it. Okay, so this is great that we have you know, some control over this report, but notice that it's still focused on Luke Skywalker. So we put all of this work into this report, right? I mean, and you know, this is a pretty basic report, but it still took, you know, a good 30, 45 minutes to like put all this together, and probably longer because we had to like organize the data and tidy all that stuff up. So maybe this very simple report took 2 hours, and we did all that work, and all we got was Luke Skywalker. And it's a natural question to say, well, what about the other characters in the Star Wars universe? Well, normally if you ask that question, what you would do is you'd come back here and you would say, okay, so we want to look at, instead of Luke Skywalker, we want to look at Yoda. So I'll put in Yoda, right? We'll do a search and replace, put Yoda in everywhere we see Luke Skywalker. Now there's two big problems with this, and I'm sure a lot of people have already figured out what those problems are. The first one is you're going to make mistakes. Even the best of us will make mistakes in this process. The second one is that you become a bottleneck. You have to go through and do this by hand every time, which is a little inane. A better solution would be to parameterize this. So I'm going to talk now about parameterize our Markdown documents. Who knows about parameterize our Markdown documents? Yeah, high and proud. Okay, so parameterize our Markdown documents. It's an open source feature of our Markdown. It's not very well known, but we think it's very, very powerful. And I'm going to show you why we think it's powerful at RStudio. Here we go in here. We type in params, and we'll give it a new name like character, and we'll type in Yoda. Okay? And now when we do a search and replace, we do params string character, and we replace all instances of this. There's 8. Okay? And if I want, I'm going to get rid of that. If I want to run this now, very good. So I now have a report about Yoda quick facts, right? So this is going to tell me all about Yoda. You know, he's really short and small, where he's from, and the films that he's in. And all I had to do was parameterize things up here in the YAML header. You can also get to this parameterization if you hit knit with parameters. So we built this into the UI. So I'm a solutions engineer, so I'm going to digress here for a second. Part of my job as solutions engineer is to demonstrate all of our products in RStudio. And this is what we call a live demo fail. So let's do it again. Let's see if we can get this again. I can't explain that. I cannot explain why it's doing that. What you're supposed to get is a doc is actually a parameterization with, nope, the gray means it's timing out. There's something about the connection. It's usually Wi-Fi related when this happens, but you're supposed to get a box here that allows you to put the knit parameters in. And like all good solutions engineering fails or live demo fails, this is the first time I've ever seen this one. I will be sharing that with Jonathan, who runs the IDE team. Okay. So pretend like you can put it in there interactively. The other ways to do that is to do it with the command line, okay? And the way you would do it with the command line, if you can see the bottom of the screen, is you would do R Markdown and render the name of the file. And then you would do params equals a list. And here you would type in, Darth Vader. Okay. So Darth Vader here will go through that call and generate a report for Darth Vader, which is really useful if you're going to operationalize this, because you could take this command and put it into a cron tab, and then just have that report generated on regular schedule. This thing also takes the parameter ask, which will pull up that box again, if that's useful to you. And you can also do this with a list of items and per again. So if I type in like characters here, so say I assign all these characters to a character variable, I can put in, I can put this into per, and this will loop through all the characters and do an R Markdown render based on that parameter, which means that you can generate those 3 reports in a job scheduler. Or you could generate 25 reports. You could do whatever you want. And once you generate those reports, you could also have those sent out by email, right? Because if you can configure your your email server so that it would just go ahead and spit those reports out. These are not hard tasks to operationalize, is my point. The alternative is that you can use RStudio Connect and the features that we've already built into these. So let's take a look at how RStudio Connect handles this, these parameterized R Markdown reports. All right, we've got the same report this time, except now we have this input toolbar on the side. And when we open up the toolbar, we see that we have a list of characters. So I'm going to type in Darth Vader, and I'm going to run the report. So let's say you generate this report and somebody else wants to iterate on it. They don't need to know anything about R to, choose Darth Vader and then generate a report. Oh, I like that. That's nice. So I haven't seen that image. Yeah, so Darth Vader, you can read about Darth Vader here, right? And then you can say, do I like this report? Yeah, I can save this report, right? And I can give it a name. I can give it, Darth Vader report. And I can decide who gets to see it. And then once I do that, it will be saved in here. I can save it as a personal report, or I can save it as a shared report. Okay. So let me show you what this would look like actually in practice and something that's not Star Wars related. This is a similar document. It's a stock market report, and it takes a stock ticker and refreshes the report. So here we've got this report for Google, and you can see the Google stock. So congratulations to those who invested with Google years ago. Your stock is up. And you can see the raw data. Okay. And then over here, we have this nice toolbar. Now, this toolbar comes from the YAML header in the R Markdown document. So I'm not going to show that right now, but it's not that complicated to set this up. And RStudio Connect will go ahead and render all these inputs for you. So I can choose a stock other than Google. So anybody have a stock they want to, anyone's portfolio up or down today?
MSFD.
MSD?
MSFD.
Oh, Microsoft, MSFT. Okay, so I'll do that. I'm going to go ahead and do the forecast based on 170 days. I'll give it a fancier model, and I'll do, send out the forecast by, another week. Run the report. Okay, so here's Microsoft. Also looking overall healthy for 2016. Actually, I didn't know they were doing that well. Wonder why. So, so in this way, users can come and they can choose their own inputs, get their own reports, and they can save them, as their own reports that they would like. There's fiat down here, report for fiat. And then what you can do here is, let's go ahead and pick up fiat. Yeah. If you like your report, you can actually schedule it. And I think this is really cool because it opens up a lot of opportunities for the data scientists here. You can choose what day to start from. You can choose to schedule it, weekly, every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And then you can decide, that you want to share this, with your colleagues, like Edgar, right? So you can add them to the report. So this will run automatically and update the reports and out. The other cool thing about the scheduler is if you have jobs that you want to automate that are not necessarily report driven, just analytic jobs, those are very easy to do in here as well. So we have this thing now, this report that has all these inputs, and if you've been tracking RStudio, you start wondering, what's the difference here between an R Markdown document and a Shiny? Because this looks like I've taken Shiny and put it on top of an R Markdown document. Well, the difference is that R Markdown documents run at runtime in batch, right? So every time that I want to update the report, I have to hit run report, and it generates an R process and runs that script through R. Shiny, on the other hand, has a very different paradigm. It boots up an R instance, it dedicates it to the R, to the application, and runs very interactive and reactive programs on top of that instance. If you've never seen Shiny before, You can get started very easily by clicking New File, Shiny Web App, giving it a name. And you get some boilerplate here. You have a UI function and a server function. You run the app with this play button. I don't think I tested out, must not tested out Shiny here. That's a very odd thing. Let me pull up the local IDE, and we'll go ahead and do File, New File. Shiny Web App. Run this, okay? And what the Shiny Web App does is it allows you to interactively change parameters, and the output will update on, very quickly. And that's great for applications where you want to see that reactive, responsive output. I already showed you the boilerplate, so let me show you what it would look like to publish this, because that's another great feature of RStudio Connect, is it allows you to publish Shiny apps. So I'm going to go ahead and choose. That's interesting too. Why don't we go ahead and I will show you how to connect to RStudio Connect. So if I do roadshow.com. I'm curious. Now we're leaving the reservation. I have no idea if this is going to work. So we're going to find out together. Agree to the terms. Sign up. Okay, and that was it. We connected the account. So that was pretty cool, right? Like, you just do a couple of buttons, and now my RStudio IDE is connected to RStudio Connect. And I neglected to mention this earlier on, but we have server versions of our IDE and desktop versions. You're looking at the desktop version right now. Previously, I was working with the server version, and we have paid and open source versions of the server version. So no matter what version of the IDE you're using, you can still publish things to Connect. So I'm going to publish this, and you'll see that it's going to wrap up the application, discover the dependencies, and ship it over. At least that's what I hope it's going to do. Nope, we're cursed. Let me try it. I'm actually going to try this one more time. Start R. Nope, it doesn't like it. Well, that doesn't speak highly for this setup. So on this setup, I'm having a hard time connecting, and on the other setup, I'm having a hard time actually getting the application to run. And I'm not sure why that is. So let me try one more thing here. I'm going to go ahead and restart. I'm going to go ahead and refresh. I appreciate you guys. That's weird to get on push. Appreciate you guys bearing with me. This is actually my job. So when people have problems with their systems, this is what we do. And it bothers me. It bothers me greatly when I have an unresolved issue. And I can only think that has something to do with Carmen. That's true. With the Wi-Fi, because yeah, I just never seen this error before. Okay. Losing things entirely there. So I wonder what happens. I wonder if I can actually push this application, even though it's been grayed out. Let's find out. Okay, that one actually did publish. So the IDE is not rendering for some, I'm losing my screen too. Why am I losing my screen? I'll try to restart here. Okay. Okay, we're back. I don't know if that's a subtle way of telling me to sit down. I'm about at my time limit here. I'm going to go ahead and publish this application, okay? I'm going to decide that it's just going to be me that gets to see it. And now I can run my Shiny app in here. So I feel like I lost some of the momentum here in my explanation of why this is cool, but the reason this is really great is because it allows the data scientists to very easily publish their applications. It's supposed to be very easy, right? And right now, if you use Shiny Apps IO, it's the same experience. If you use Shiny Server or Shiny Server Pro, you know that you have to manually move things over. So that's benefit number one. Benefit number two is that I can actually change the performance of this application and allocate more resources to it. I, as the data scientist, I don't have to depend on my team to do it. And then item number three is I can take a look at the logs and like see what's failing on the application so I can go back and fix it. So the paradigm here is if you are a data scientist and you want to deploy, scale, and manage your applications yourself, then RStudio Connect gives you the ability to do that. If you would rather ship that over to a server, we have other products to handle that, like RStudio Server. But this is a great platform for managing those Shiny applications. So let me just conclude with another Shiny application here. Go back to Star Wars again. Close this up. And this is why Shiny applications are useful. So say I don't know anything about R, but I've got some data scientists who are building some nice things. I can come in here and see this report. And this is a dashboard that I built using Shiny Dashboard. And I'm predicting speed as a function of crew, cost, passengers, and cargo. And I can see that pretty much everything is significant here. So I come over here and I take a look at my residuals. They look terrible. I think, I should have been applying this order transformation anyway. They still look terrible. Let's come over and look at the leverage statistics. And oh, sure enough, the Genosian whatever the Genosian starfighter is. If you know what the Genosian starfighter is, don't single yourself out now. That would be a bad move. I do not know what that is. But there we go, get rid of that. And C997. I'm just kidding. You can let your geek flag fly as high as you'd like. Okay, so this is somewhat tolerable at this point. So let's go back to the coefficients. And voila, nothing is significant now. Nothing significant in this model means that either, number one, the people are completely making up this data, or number two, the writers of the movies are also making up their data. Both of those things indicate to me that Star Wars is just not real. And I hate to be the one to break it to you, but yeah, that's the truth. So the end users here can come in and they can mess with things and try things out and really, learn things that you decide that you want to, share with them. And I think that's the benefit of these Shiny applications. And I think the people in the audience who have used Shiny, realize that that's really the benefit of Shiny is, sharing that information with other people. All right. So just to summarize again, RStudio Connect is going to allow you to publish all of your work, all of the content that you do can get published into RStudio Connect. And secondly, it allows other people that don't know anything about R to interact with your content in meaningful ways to make decisions. And I'll just leave you with this thought that we have packages that are designed to link up all of your data with all of the people that you want to communicate with. And we're building this nice tool chain with RStudio packages and products to help you as data scientists be more efficient and more influential in your work. And again, I just want to say thanks. Do we have time for questions now, or should we do questions at the end? Okay, great. So that's my presentation. I would love to hear any questions or thoughts that you have.
Is there a way to keep tracks of the previous version of our Markdown 5?
Yeah, the question is there a way to keep track of previous versions of our Markdown documents in RStudio Connect? And the answer to that is yes. We have this feature here. I come into it. I'm not sure if we have it here, but here's source versions. And there's only one version here, but if there were more, you'd see more in this list. And there's this really cool thing about download, right? So you can download this bundle. And when you download that, that means that you can like move it to other servers if you need to, which can come in extremely handy with some workflows. Any other questions? Okay. Okay, well, thanks everyone, and I look forward to chatting with you later. Oh, here it is.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Joe Rickert. I'm RStudio's ambassador to the R community, and RStudio's appointee to the R Consortium. So what I'd like to do is I'll explain that job as I go along. It's actually a pretty interesting and unique position to be in. But one of the things that's really hard to do for new people coming to R, and indeed people who have been R developers for quite some time, is to see the big picture all the time. It's developing very quickly, and it's really difficult to figure out what's going on and who's doing what to whom and how to get involved. So let's start off with the R Consortium. Now, has everybody heard about the R Consortium? No, maybe just a few people. Okay, so that's really important to explain this. Now, are people clear about the R Foundation? Do people understand what that is? Is there anybody who doesn't? It's okay, because this is complicated. So the R Foundation are the group of people who are in charge of the R, who hold the copyright for the R language. So that's the open source group that really calls the shots and runs the show about the R language itself. And it's a official organization incorporated in Austria. So it's a European group. Now, the R core team is a subset of the R Foundation. They're the 20 or so people who have the right to make commits to R. So you're probably all familiar with the R language itself doesn't change that quickly, right? The R grows and extends its capabilities through the package system. So we have had the R Foundation for a long time looking after the R language, and the R core developers actually controlling the commits and the language. And then we have, of course, the community, people like yourselves who have been working with R and developing packages and sharing information from users. Now, we don't use the word community lightly here. So community actually has a technical meaning. The marketing people you see, sometimes they just want to label any group as a community, but that's not true. To be a community, you have to have three things at least. People have to self-identify as a community, and the second thing is they have to interact frequently, like we're doing here. We're interacting, and the third and really important thing is that there has to be a way to contribute to the community and have your contributions recognized and valued. Now, my belief and hypothesis is the reason why R took off was not necessarily because it was the best language or tool out there. But because of the way the package structure involved in R, it allowed people to make contributions. So the package structure is a natural community builder. Now, what's happened, of course, over the last few years, the community has grown so successful. The R language has made contributions to important practices, and it got the attention of business and industry. And I imagine all of you involved in that some way. So now you have business and industry involved, and for businesses to become part of the community, they have to have a way to contribute. And that's where the R Consortium comes in. It makes it possible for businesses like RStudio, like Microsoft, or Oracle, to not just take the open source and the benefits, but to actually contribute and bring stuff back to the community where it could possibly reach down to the level of the individual. So here's the statement about what we're all about. And now let's look a little bit about. So the foundation started, it's almost 2 years now. It was in just before USAR in 2015. And these are the groups of companies that are in the R Consortium right now, which, by the way, is an American, a U.S. private corporation, because what it is, it's a project technically organized under the Linux Foundation. So the Linux Foundation is a nonprofit where by being organized as an independent project under the Linux Foundation, it makes it possible for companies to give money and for the legal status of the contributions to be recognized. So it's difficult for U.S. companies, say, to contribute directly to the R Foundation, which is a European organization, but it's easier to do this. So here are the companies that are in there. Microsoft and RStudio were founding members. The Gordon and Betty Moore Foundation, probably well known to you as a philanthropic, and they give out gifts and grants to technology, all kinds of organizations and individuals, and they're very very famous, and they've been very steady and rock solid to the recognizing talent and genius and funding it. So here, the other interesting thing about the membership that you see here is that it includes companies, even though they're not a gold, a platinum member, but Google. And this one here, Ketchum, let's see, we have Procogia, and this is Ketchum Trading. That's a hedge fund in Chicago. So they represent sort of like a second tier of companies. They're not making their living directly off of our language, but they're using R in a central way in their businesses, and they felt that it was advantageous to become part of the contributing community. So after 2 years now, we're starting to see that kind of growth. So this is the way I look at things. I look at the R Consortium now as an organization that links industry, the R community, the R Foundation, and it's a central spot, and it operates, so you have things operating at different levels, right? You have individuals, you have organizations, the consortium is an organization, the foundation is an organization, so how do these things hold together? And that's what the R Consortium is about, to be that link. Now, what do we do? Well, there's two major things that the consortium does. One is this thing, a place to meet for people to come to a consensus about difficult problems. So you might think of it as fulfilling the role of like a standards organization. So like engineers like IEEE, they do IEEE standards, and like one of the things that has to happen to achieve an international standard, like TCP/IP or something like that, is to have people form an agreement on the best way, given the circumstances, to do something. So we have these kinds of working groups. This is the reference architecture for the distributed computing working group. So what they're trying to do is figure out what would be the best level of primitives to build a middleware where between, on the bottom you have back-end platforms like Spark or Hadoop or some database systems. And then at the top end, you have your application. So what would be the distributed computing paradigm that would be best suited for the R language to have developed? And that's what they're working on. There's a DDR package, which kind of implements the elements of the reference architecture. And it's actually every working group, has an organizer, and some of the organizers are pretty well connected in the R community. For instance, the DDR group is organized by Michael Lawrence, who is an R core member. So anybody who's interested can contact these working groups, and you might be able to join them. And then you have, as an individual, you get access to share the ideas with people who are, in the center of the development cycle. There's another working group, let's just say code coverage. So they're working on building code coverage tools. And they just released a first release of a package which does that. And that's on the RViews blog. It went live, on the R Consortium blog. So the R Consortium, if you go to the webpage that I had up there, there's also a blog, and there's a blog from the code coverage working group went live today, so they'll show you the status of what they're happening. So that's one thing. It's a place for people to come together and talk about big projects that are bigger than a single package, that require lots of people cooperating, and that might not be able to be done unless a consensus is achieved community-wide. And there's also, the next thing that happens is that we give out grants. So far we're in a cycle for twice a year where we have a proposal cycle where we announce it, we're accepting proposals, and then we make awards. It could be between $5,000 and $50,000 or more. So one thing that the way we look at it is that we're a catalyst. So our ladies essentially organize themselves. And our ladies are doing real well right now, but because it was the publicity of, we awarded a grant, we publicized it, it caught on, and then there's a virtuous cycle, right? So they started talking about the R Consortium, and then so they're doing quite well. So that's a catalyst kind of thing. It's a place that you can organize. Have anybody attended a Saturdays event? Well, they're mostly happening in out-of-the-way places, and the idea is how to help people put on small one-day conferences on Saturdays and get them organized. There was one in Cape Town, there was one, I think, in Budapest, and you can apply, you can follow that group and apply to have, your city or your community get the support to do this kind of thing. It's like an R flash mob. So, try to get people involved that aren't in places that have a thriving community already. Then there's complicated projects. So simple features. Any spatial statistics people? All right, well, this simple features is the new international standard for building spatial objects. So now there are a couple of packages that have quickly become a standard for doing spatial statistics. It's replacing, it was an existing R package called SP, and now it's SF. And then this is a really big project. So R Hub. Anybody familiar with R Hub? Well, this will become important to almost all of you, especially if you're developing packages, because now it's a build system for the R language that's online. So a few years, in fact, this kind of project was the impetus that really got the R Consortium to take off. So a few years ago, RForge, which was also a build system that still exists, went off the line for a while. So people started to think about infrastructure. You know, most of the R infrastructure is maintained by volunteers. You know, the people who do CRAN, they're all volunteers. They're not getting paid for their work. They just like what they're doing and they think it's important. So now that companies and industries are getting involved in using R in a serious way, people start thinking, well, we've got to where we are, you know, for 20 years of hard work by volunteers. If R is going to last 20 more years and it's growing and it's achieving, you know, the status where enterprises are trying to vet their businesses on it, what kind of infrastructure do we have to put in place? So this build system, which has, you know, everything you would expect in order to build the packages, and also it's modernized and based on GitHub. That's happening. Here's what it takes to join the consortium. So there's, depending on your membership level, and that's $100,000 a year to be a platinum member, and that's why I'm on the board of directors of the R Consortium, is because I'm RStudio's representative. Once you spend that much money, you get the right to have somebody look after your investment, and that's what I do. But there's also the opportunities to participate in the ISC. It stands for the Infrastructure Steering Committee, and they're the technical people that organize the working groups and actually decide how the money's going to get spent. Now, this is a list of active grants right now. And you can see this number is from the beginning. So since almost 2 years, we have handed out almost $459,000. So getting off close to $500,000. So you can see it's pretty efficient. It's right now about 70% efficiency. We take in dues from the members, and we're trying to get an even higher level of efficiency where we hand out the money to people like yourselves who have written a proposal that was deemed worthy enough by the ISC to get funded. And you can see right now, this R Hub project is a $164,000 project we're funding. So we believe that's really important to our future. And then you can see other people are getting amounts, you know, $10,000, $25,000 very common to do some of these other projects. So this is possible, you know, you just have to be aware and be passionate about something. So the results where the consortium is, 13 members. We have 25 funded projects right now in the working groups. We've got collaborations going on, and you know, we're a secure long-term foundation in R. From the point of view, when you go back and try to sell your respective companies and why this is important, from a business's point of view, you know, we provide technical capability to get the right people from around the industry together, and we provide the governance for the money that's being spent. We get support from vendors. There's a talent pool, and it provides legal clarity. I mean, you know, the corporations spend a lot of time when they're dealing with open source products to make sure that they don't violate the licenses. It used to be just a few years ago, most companies wouldn't even take, you know, anything to do with open source because they were worried about the lack of legal clarity. So we help fill that role. And then this is something new. So what's new? First off, you're the first to hear it, I guess, but relatively soon, I hope within the next week, there's going to be a survey going out. It'll be announced on the R Consortium site, and you'll probably see people like Hadley Wickham and lots of other luminaries in the R world tweeting about it. So please take the survey. It's not really onerous, and it's relatively, you know, it's a prototype survey. But we don't even know how many people are out there in the R world, you know, and we're trying to get a handle on, you know, how big it is. So the survey, these new projects that were funded in the last proposal round, which closed in March. They're getting underway now. And we expect to have later this year, in September, the opportunity for you to contribute. So you can help us by getting involved. You know, if you're a real mover and shaker in your organization, you might ask, you know, the powers that be, you know, would they consider looking at participating in our consortium? If you're an individual with an idea, well, contact us, you know, write a proposal. And if it's even at the level of an individual contribution, look at the working groups and contact the organizers and get involved. See what energy you can put back through that way. All right, now just for a minute, I want to switch gears and talk about RStudio's contributions to the community. So big picture-wise, this is the way I see things. First off, you know, they contribute, they're founding members to the R Consortium. RStudio funds lots of working groups and small conferences. If you're putting on a conference or doing something that's a notable public event, you know, you should contact RStudio. There's, you know, a small amount of money like $250, $500 can help at the grassroots level, and we've done a lot of that. We have the blog that I'm the editor for, and it's supposed to be a community blog. So there's lots of, in the beginning, we're getting it started. There's, of course, mostly RStudio contributors, and I have to write way too many blogs myself. But what we'd like to be able to do is have, you know, views of people about the community, write something technical about something that you did, or how some aspect of our works. You've done a statistical analysis and you think it's worth sharing. And if you send the idea to me, maybe we can get your work published, and you can get, you know, start to get a public profile that shows you being part of the people that are communicating in an organized way about art. But the last thing I want to do here is ask you to think about the kind of things Nathan was talking about that RStudio does from the point of view of a contribution to the community. So, you know, the Tidyverse, we keep talking about that, and the Tidyverse, it's a collection of packages, but it's more than a collection of packages. It's like a domain-specific language. So one of the beautiful fundamental things about the R language itself is that it's a good vehicle for writing specialized languages. So throwing the integrity of base R, what Hadley did was write a DSL specific for data science that kind of lays on top and integrates well with the language. And the same kind of things happen for R Markdown and Shiny. So think of what RStudio is doing here. It's raised the game from, no matter how brilliant a package contributor is, you know, he or she only, you know, it's difficult to get one good package out and maintain it. So now what we do is we have a group, several groups that are working on multi-year, multi-developer projects. And all of this goes into open source. Over 80% of the effort that RStudio makes goes into open source. So, you know, people often ask us how we make money. Well, we make money as a byproduct of what the mission of the company is. J.J. Allaire and Joe Chang, they started this company to give to the R community, and we make enough money to keep going. 80% of the effort or more goes into this kind of work. We also are looking out for strategic initiatives. You know, HTML widgets was, you know, think of that as the tip of the spear for integrating R into JavaScript, and a whole world of web development opened up with that kind of thing. And then you've seen Sparkly R connecting to Spark and big platforms. And what you've got going on right now is TensorFlow and Keras, which is a right now it's a Python-based deep learning library, but pretty soon we'll be able to access these kinds of deep learning tools directly from R without having to go through the Python layer. So here's the idea that we've got a team of thinkers who are looking out and saying, what are the really neat, big data things going on? And we're developing projects and we're funding projects and implementing them in such a way that they can be distributed to the open source community. So anybody can use these things. And don't, we talk about the book, but don't underestimate the effort, the publishing effort that we put out to make many of these things free and have them done in an organized way. So think about, I would like you to think about, the way RStudio works as organizing the contributions to the R community on a scale that's bigger than individuals can undertake on their own, and you can see how that performs nice. That's nice synergy with the R Consortium, because now we're leveraging the talent of individuals into groups like Hadley's team, and now through that and the R Consortium, we're trying to leverage the talent of multiple corporations to do even bigger things to make the R community grow even further and have more capabilities. And the idea is that we make our money by the professional level tools, and you can think of that as the benefit that enables you, if companies didn't think that R was enterprise worthy, then none of us would probably have the same level of opportunity to work with R. So that's it. We're about, you. So thank you. Well, I'll be around. Thank you.
Yeah, I want to say thank you again to all of you that are here and to our guests. Thanks for your speech. And I hope you can enjoy the refreshment time, like talking with them and to each other. So yeah, please go.